Like, it take a real motherfucker to get sober.
Entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not necessarily what you do. Because I promise you, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you will be okay.
What do we know about trauma scientifically? It changes the chemistry in the brain.
We can relate to one another, you know. That's why this camaraderie is so awesome, because we just get it and we don't judge.
You can't fight new battles with old tactics. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character becomes your destiny.
What do you want to be remembered by when you're gone? What's grounded, fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. As always, the purpose of this channel is to express vulnerability and expand awareness to addiction, trauma, and mental health. Joining me today is my guest. Welcome back, my brother Adam. What's grounded, bro?
Part 2, bro. You know I was ready for this from the jump.
Let's get it, man. There's a lot of things I want to talk about today with you, man, just because there's been a lot of stuff going on this past year and the ending of last year that, you know, have really shooken up like the recovery community and Instagram. And unfortunately, there was some passings and some people have relapsed. And I don't want to get into people individually, but I want to talk about, given the fact that you are in treatment and you not in treatment, but you work in treatment. Yeah. And you have a lot of experience through that. And me personally, I've only been through a couple instances. So I'm relatively new. So I would love to pick your brain on maybe how to deal with certain situations and how to proceed with them. But before we get all serious and start talking about, you know, things that definitely do matter and why people would want to watch this video, you know, I want to talk about the NFL right now because we are sporting our jerseys. You know what I'm saying? You're rocking the Raiders. I'm going with the Rams.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sporting the Salute to Service Jared Goff jersey. What you got on, bro?
I got the Darren Waller jersey from the Raiders, tight end who just picked up 4 years in sobriety.
That's right, brother. That's right, man. Look, and the reason why I want to talk about the NFL and sports in general, I mean, I don't want people to think like, oh, what the hell, this turned into like a sports podcast out of nowhere. But, well, first, because we're in the playoffs, you know, the Raiders are not, but we are. Just saying. Ooh,
hey, it's the Cowboys.
Right.
That's all I know. It's not the Cowboys, so we're good.
All right. I respect that. The reason why I want to bring this up is because in the sports world, and particularly like in football, so like momentum plays a big role in the sports and who decides to win. And I really want to kind of make the analogy like you did in our last podcast about momentum being in our day-to-day lives and how that could affect our recovery or just our mood. So just to start off with, like, how is like one way that momentum plays a big role in your recovery on day-to-day?
That's a great question. So I think for me, momentum, it really just starts with just doing the small stuff, right? And like, no matter what happens in my day, I can always start my day over. That's a great reminder for me. And that all it takes is me doing the next right thing. You know what I mean? I may not do the next right thing this next time, whatever it may be. Maybe it's something to do with honesty. Maybe it's something to do with, you know, integrity, whatever. The hope is that I do that. But if I don't, I know that I can correct it in the next event that comes up. And I'm going to have hundreds of events throughout the day. So to me, I say that because I don't want I want the momentum to take me as far as I don't want to focus so much on the last mistake that I made because I can't fix it. I can't change it. But can I make a start from now, from this move forward? And that's what kind of, you know, keeps me moving in that right track. That's what keeps me positive. That's what lets me not stay stuck in that bad choice that I made or the way that I didn't handle the situation well. So for me, it's like I don't focus on the old stuff. I try to focus on the next thing that I can do and then build from that. And to me, that's the momentum.
Right on, dude. Very well said, man. I just want to give the example of like the Rams against the Bucks the other day, man. Talk about momentum swing. I mean, of course, you got Tom Brady on the other side, but man, we talking about fumbles, we're talking about mistakes, and these are things that you just got to make that one play, secure the ball, hold on to it, not put it on the ground, and you get a first down. Like, let's say, I don't know, life is Tom Brady and is working against you and you've made several mistakes. What's your next move?
I mean, you try to be at the right place at the right time, right? I mean, you try to make. I mean, you look back at what you did in the past. You look at see, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and then you make an adjustment. And I think so many people are so afraid to make an adjustment because it's different, it's change, and I know that most people don't like change. I don't like change that I don't like either, but do you know what I mean? But it's like, but I'm never going to get anywhere unless I'm willing to do something different, you know? And so for me, it's always about, okay, well, we tried this didn't work. Okay, I got to do something different. And that may be something as simple as like, it may be a job, it may be a relationship, it may be about my finances, it may be about my spiritual connection. It's like, dude, if something's not working, I got to change it.
Damn right. Very well said, bro. And I can also say on the opposite hand, I'm going back to that game with the Rams. I think they were trying to get safe and be cute and run out the clock because their Tom Brady's on the other side. When they were passing the ball the whole time, they were getting first down after first down. They were moving the chains. Everything was going well until you start giving the ball to our running back, who's a great running back, but he had already put the ball on the ground once. So where I'm going with this is, stick to what works also. Stick to the basics. Right. If something's working for you already, there's no need to get cute and try to do something else because you saw somebody else do it or because it's quote unquote playing it safe. Like, just stick to the basics because those are the things that, like you said, haven't already been working for you. Unless they start to fail at one point, then that's when we make some adjustments. That analogy I wanted to make for the Rams because, bro, we were moving the chains. And I know I'm going back and forth with like recovery and life and football and sports, but life is a huge freaking game. It's a game, and the stakes are high. We're talking about our future. We're talking about the children's. We're talking about a lot of things that can put a lot of pressure on us at times. But I think sticking to the basics is also another thing we can definitely fall back on and look at and try to acknowledge at the same time.
Yeah, because there's a difference between like a healthy risk and an unhealthy risk. Mm-hmm. I'm good at taking unhealthy risks, but if you know what I mean? Like I take those, I take those all the time in active addiction, and even still sometimes in sobriety, I can have unhealthy risks, but obviously nothing like I used to be, but today it's like, can I observe it and take a healthy risk? And a healthy risk would be like me, like sometimes changing a meeting, going to a different meeting, or if I feel, again, like you said, if it's working, I'm going to stick with it. That's why I'm an addict and alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like I'll run drugs and alcohol into the ground, pull it back out, run it back into the ground again. So if it's working, I'll stick with it. But if it stops the work, then that's when I got to take that calculated, I guess measurement of my life and say, okay, well, let me take a healthy risk. Let me change my sponsor. Let me change my meeting schedule. Let me change this. Let me change that. Let's see what works. And I don't want to do it all at once because I don't want to like throw a shock to the system, but I'll try something different if I need to get out of that spot and get out of that rut. And that's kind of like what happened with, I think, so many people right over the last, I mean, really just all over the time, but obviously because it's fresh for us, that people maybe didn't change it up or they got too comfortable, too complacent, or, it's too stagnant, or didn't reach out for help and didn't want to, all those things can lead to me running down that rabbit hole. So.
Yeah, brother, right on, man. So very well said, dude. I want to get into a little bit of your background in terms of like how long you've been working in treatment, and
Sure.
What are some experiences that you've had where you've seen, or do you work with patients directly, or what is your description like?
Yeah, so I'm a LPC, so I'm a licensed professional counselor. So I went back and got my master's back at 2013, finished up in 2015.
Nice.
I've been working in treatment for 13 years as an assistant counselor, working with patients at inpatient, doing lectures, getting patients where they need to get to, doctor's appointments, all that stuff at the inpatient facility. And then the last 6 or 7 years, I was at the outpatient. I've been there since. And so I would do like crisis intake. So when people come in looking for treatment, I would, work with them, work with their families. And then now I do group therapy. So I may have, 10, 12 patients, doing group therapy with them 3 hours a day, 4 days a week.
Wow, bro. That's awesome, man. Definitely making a positive, change in the world out there, bro. Have you seen, I'm pretty sure you have, but have you seen like in your sessions, its own momentum change within that group, and can you describe how it can go negatively and then how it could go positively, and depending on who or what?
Sure. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, definitely. I'll start with I guess the negative first. Right, is that I've seen it go negative when, people are, some of my patients may be getting good suggestions from people in the group, or I may be offering some feedback or suggestions, and then for whatever reason, fear hits them and they stop, and they don't take the suggestions, or they don't move forward, or they start feeling better. And that's always a really bad spot in early recovery, right? Is like, I'm sick, I don't feel good, and then I start feeling better. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got it. And then the momentum can stop from the work that they've been doing. So it's like when they're in that discomfort and pain and withdrawals and, going through all that kind of stuff, and consequences are severe, it's like there's so much easier to listen to like what you have to say and willing to take the suggestions. But yeah, the moment they feel better, it's like sometimes it can be really tough trouble. But on the other side of it, the positive side is that I've seen somebody in group may not really feel connected, or may not really feel like, you can kind of tell they're not really there because they want to be there. They're there because they're kind of, maybe external reasons for whatever reason. But then there's somebody that's in the group. Yeah, maybe court order. Yeah, I mean, like, legal, trying to save the job, whatever. But then somebody comes into the group that they just click with, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, maybe this thing could work. All right. And then they start listening to that person. And it's just all of a sudden, like, you start to see the light click on, and they're like, wait, okay, well, maybe recovery's not so bad. And then all of a sudden, like, they start doing this work. They don't even realize they're doing the work. They think they're just sitting there, but they're actually really doing the work. And by the time they finish, they're just like, oh, this is okay. I'm in. I'm locked in. So it's a cool thing. It's a cool experience.
Right on, bro. I definitely sense that. Not even in recovery, just like on a day-to-day basis. Let's say I'm having a bad day and somebody comes along and just smiles at me, or just has a specific vibe to them, and then they start talking with such like joyous like frequency, and I'm just like, oh man, like, why was I even depressed anyways? Like, you see like this energy flowing through this person, and they're talking about how grateful they are to have this job, and then not so long ago I was complaining about this job that I have that's breaking my back and woo.
Yep.
But this person's just so happy about it, and it kind of changes your perspective of things. So I think that's a great point that you just made, man. Moving forward, I want to talk about relapses, man. There's been a few close to me, actually, of some friends that have relapsed, and I found it really complex, bro. Really complex to, not me being the person that relapsed, but like others relapsing. I never had experienced anything that I felt so emotionally drained, and I don't want to make this about me, but at the same time, I want to touch on like how we can protect ourselves and at the same time protect the person that may have relapsed, by either setting boundaries or trying to help, and learning how to help from a distance if you can't fully help closer than you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I've definitely had the experience, being in sobriety now for 15 years, and I'm fortunate that thus far I have not relapsed, you know what I mean? And like, but I always know at the end of the day that it's possibility. If I stop doing this work, no doubt it's a possibility. I learned the hard way early on. And what I mean by that is that, like, I would get really down on myself if somebody relapsed, and it was like, oh, especially if I was close with them, because I was like, oh man, I should have done something different. I could have helped them,
Right.
or, oh, I should have picked up the phone when they called the other day, or, when they invited me to go eat, I should have gone instead of not. And I took it really hard in the beginning. And I mean, I kind of still do. I mean, it depends on the person, obviously, in the situation,
Right.
but there's this great movie, and most people have probably seen it, but it's from the 90s, Heat, with Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer. Have you seen that movie?
I have not, man. I gotta watch it.
Bro, oh my God, it's amazing. So there's Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, Tom Sizemore. They're all bank robbers, and Al Pacino's a detective trying to stop them. And so there's two scenes in the movie where Al Pacino and Robert De Niro are in the same scene together, and one's in the middle, one's at the end. And in the middle of the movie, they meet in a diner or whatever, their restaurant. They're sitting there talking, and he's like, how have you been able to, be a bank robber, right, and stay out of trouble for the most part. And De Niro looks at him and he says, I was always taught, he says, if you feel the heat around the corner, he said, do not hesitate to walk away from anything in 30 seconds flat. And it's a really powerful scene. It's a really great part of the movie, but I've taken that to stride. You know what I mean? Like, if I see somebody that's going down that path, like, I may say something to them and say, hey, like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? But if they're in full-blown relapse, like, I know that I'm not going to be able to help them. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not that I can't help them. It's like, because I know that person is not in there. Like, that sober person that I got sober with, that sober person that's, like, rational and logic and, all those things is in there. Like, but now I'm talking to somebody who's in active addiction. And so, like, the best way that I can help that person is to, for me, is I stay sober. That's number one. That's one of the best ways I can help that person is stay sober. So if they do get a chance to come back, I can be the guy I can be somebody that they recognize and see. But I'll say, hey, like, I'm jumping on this Zoom meeting. Do you want to jump on? Do you want the link? And if they say no, I'm like, all right, cool. Holler at me later. If you need something, I'll check in on them every once in a while. How you doing? Just want to check on you, thought about you. But I don't really try to go over there and rescue anybody, because somebody's drowning in the water and, you don't want to jump in and drown either, Now I'm obviously at a good place at 15 years where I could go over there around somebody drinking and using and it would be okay. I wouldn't want to drink, but I also don't want to put myself in that spot either.
Right. Right.
So I think those are some of the main things that I do to kind of protect myself but also try to be helpful to that person.
Yeah, very well said, dude. What is I know setting boundaries is healthy. Like, what's one way you can approach somebody? Let's say if you don't have very good social skills, talking to people, and you don't know how to tell somebody no, because when we are in our active addiction, we can be very manipulative, and we can kind of make people do what we want because we may cause them to feel sympathy towards us. So if someone that can get caught in that, what's a way for you to be vocal and kind of set these healthy boundaries? And then also, what is a healthy boundary?
It's tough, right? I mean, it depends on the person. It depends on, again, the person's, I guess, person being the person that's using, but also the person that's, trying to set the boundary. If I struggle with setting boundaries, one is that I'm probably going to ask somebody for accountability. I'm not going to go into somebody else's business and say, hey, this person's blah, blah, blah. But I may say to them, hey, I may need to call you if somebody's reaching out to me. I need you to talk me down from this because I'll get sucked back into this if I don't. So I'll set some accountability. Right. If I struggle with setting boundaries, I'll try to stay off the phone with that person. I may text with that person, but if I'm on the phone with them, it's easier for them to kind of manipulate me. If I'm on text message, I can respond when I choose to. I can have a chance to talk about it with somebody, my sponsor, my friend, my wife, and say, hey, what do you think about this before I respond? If I have to, worst case scenario, I'll block the person for a couple of days. You know what I mean? And I hate to do that, but I will block the person, just to say hey, I need a couple of days to really kind of process what's going on. But there's a really great book out there called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud that's really, really good about learning how to set boundaries.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really, really good book because most people will read that book.
Cool. I'll put the link on the description for people could just click on it if they want to, I don't know, buy it on Amazon or audiobook or whatever. I'll just put the link in the description just in case somebody might, have trouble setting boundaries. Something else that you and I both have experienced, just recently is, close friends passing because of an overdose or whatever the reason. And in
Sure.
recovery, I know for me, when someone passes and they're close to me, it's hard for me to not, well, now it isn't, but it used to be hard for me to not think and be the way I'm going to cure this, the way I'm going to feel better is by numbing my pain with alcohol or with Coke or with whatever it was or whatever it is at the time. What are some methods that have helped you to deal with, somebody's passing?
Talking about it, even though I don't want to. We're you and I are really fortunate that we have a really good recovery community around us, and there's a couple of guys that I really love and respect. You being one of those guys.
Likewise.
Marty, the GOAT, of course. Willie and Cameron from the other side, and then Billy from Brainwash. Like I talk to those guys every single day. We have a group chat message that goes every day, and we just kind of share gratitude and things like that. So those guys, like, I can be really honest with and just say, like, hey, I'm really struggling. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like, I'm struggling to deal with this. So I really have leaned on those guys this last month and a half, when we, especially when we lost somebody really close in recovery. I found that, I found that, like, I tried to find a way to be of service. I found that being of service, like, really helps me get out of me anyway. Which is, it's always, right. It never fails. You know what I mean? And so in a couple of those situations, like, I just tried to find my way to be of service, talk to the people who were really, affected, even worse than me. Right. And just, check on them. How are they doing? And like you said, when you do that, it kind of puts things in perspective. It's that, I'm not the only one hurting, that there's other people out there. And, reading has been another way that's kind of helped me get, kind of disconnected. It's a healthy thing, right? Read 20, 30 pages a night and just at least for, 15, 20 minutes, just decompress, right? Not think about whatever that situation is. So those are definitely some of the big things that I've found.
What are some things that will definitely get you in trouble if there's a passing, maybe based on like what you've seen in your groups, what are some things to definitely stay away from if that happens?
Isolation is a big one. Isolation always is going to get me in trouble because when I'm by myself and my mind's thinking, it's going to be like a pinball machine going back and forth. Dismissing my feelings, just like, oh man, I'm fine. Like, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, oh, everybody passes, it's like, that's how I used to handle stuff. I used to just be like, oh, dude, it's all good. We're all going to die. Let the good die young. And it's like, I don't live to live, homie. Right? That's the way I did. I used to think that. I thought that, like, it sounded cool, but I was still hurting. And I never was dealing with what was really going on, So now it's like, I don't want to isolate. I don't want to dismiss my feelings. And I also... I don't want to replace something with another. You know what I mean? I don't want to replace, like, a pain with, like, I can take out my feelings on somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, instead of me just saying, hey, I'm hurt right now, I'm really struggling right now, it's like I can be short and snippy, and it's like, that's not cool, because that's the people in my life, whether I'm at home or I work with, they don't deserve that, and they would be much more understanding if I would just say, hey, like, I'm really hurting right now. So I think those two things, isolation, talking about how I'm feeling, those are the two things that are really going to get me in trouble if I don't pay attention to it.
Dude, very well said, man. I really do agree with a lot of things that you just said, especially when it comes to when somebody has relapsed. I think, like, the number one thing probably is the best way to help them is by you staying sober yourself. I really took that to heart because I feel like, at some point, if they do decide to get stuff together, by you being somebody that they can recognize and be familiar with, and things may pick up where they left off. So I really do appreciate that right there. And then also, yes, what you just said right now, dude, expressing yourself, being vulnerable and not holding that in, because I was just like that. And if I'm being honest, man, sometimes I still can be very like, I don't live to live, homie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like just, like, we all die at the end of the day. But that's not a good way to express like what you really feel inside, because deep down inside, I'm just like, damn, why? Like, I have all these questions deep down inside of me, and I may not know the answers to them, but it's okay to ask them and express them to the universe or to somebody or to a piece of paper, So thank you for sharing that. I think that's very useful advice. Is there anything that you would like to talk about right now that kind of goes together with the topics we have today?
Well, I mean, something that, when I was talking with Willie a few weeks ago or whatever, and we were just chopping it up or whatever, talking about something, and we had recorded something earlier in the day, it was after the fact. We were talking about, so like in New Orleans, right? Louisiana, New Orleans. There's Mardi Gras, pretty much everybody, most people know about Mardi Gras at some point. I've heard about it at
Right.
least, and it's usually like, there's parades and there's beads and there's boobs. There's a few things,
There's a lot of bees out there. There's boobs,
There's a lot of
there's
beads out
boobs.
there. You don't know.
There's
This
booties.
could be the preview. This could be the preview to the episode. But there's a lot of boobs. But one of the things that they do in New Orleans and Mardi Gras, right, is that they have this tradition called the king cake. And so the king cake is this cake. I don't even know what kind of cake it is, but it's a cake. But inside the cake is this little teeny tiny plastic baby. And so it's hidden somewhere in the cake. And when you find the cake, if you find the baby in the cake or whatever, the thing is, it's good luck. And then next year you buy the cake or whatever. And when I was telling Willie that, I said, that thought really kind of freaked me out for a second and it creeped me out for a second. I said, and he asked why. And I said, because inside me is a little king cake baby inside me, and it's my addiction. And it's sitting there, and it's this teeny tiny little thing. It doesn't matter how much clean time and sobriety I have. It doesn't matter how many meetings I go to, how much I pray. It's always going to be sitting inside me, and it's waiting. And it's waiting. It's waiting for that drop of alcohol. It's waiting for that one pill. It's waiting for that one line. It's waiting for that one hit. It's waiting, and it's sitting there. And he was like, man, I never really thought about it like that. I was like, yeah, like that. It really just kind of blew me away because, like, no matter how much sobriety I have, that little king cake baby's still going to be sitting inside me waiting. And the moment I drink, the moment I use, that thing blows up like a sponge, dude, and absorbs everything, and it takes over. And so to me, I mean, it really, when you and I were talking about like the topic and we were talking about like relapse and stuff, and like that really kept coming back to me was that thought of the king cake baby, and it's just like it's scary. I don't ever want to lose my focus when it comes to recovery because I don't want to let that thing take back over.
Right
for
on,
somebody
dude.
who loves control, you know what I mean? Like for somebody who loves control, and I loved control when I was drinking and using, I sure was willing to give it up. You know what I mean? For drinking and using. So I don't want to give up that what little control I do have today. You know what I mean? Like I'm in control of my recovery today. Like I'm in control of like if I pray, if I meditate, if I call my sponsor, if I talk to other sober members in the recovery community, if I attend a meeting, I'm in control of that today. And so that's, my hope is that for people who see this, realize, especially if you're in sobriety, whether it's 1 day or 1,000 days or whatever, like today you're in control of whether or not you go back to that way of life.
Very well said, bro. And again, going back to momentum, you're doing the things that will allow you to continue that momentum of recovery, to stay clean, to stay sober, by praying, by reading, by staying connected, by going to meetings, by being of service. All of these things will help you keep the momentum and not find that baby inside of you that's just waiting to absorb all of these good things that you have accumulated and the feelings that you have to oblivion.
I'll never be the same.